As many of you know, I was going to do this yesterday, and all of us were planning to be here. But unfortunately, just hours before the press conference was scheduled to occur, Philadelphia was once again plagued by another example of gun violence. A man wielding a gun shot 6 Philadelphia police officers. He held 2 other officers hostage. And he terrorized countless other families during a standoff that lasted late into the night. Just a side thing, I mean, that was a terrible example of really bad things that can be done, but it was just another event in a long string of events. On Wednesday, a 20-year-old was shot and killed in South Philadelphia. Unfortunately, gun violence is just too much an ordinary part. It didn't make the front page as the shooter did on Wednesday, but it's too much of a part of our communities like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, York, my own small town. We have suffered too much of this. The point is that man in Philadelphia had enough ammunition and weapons to hold dozens of Philadelphia police officers at bay for almost 8 hours. Why was that? Why would anyone need that? What's more, countless acts of gun violence occurred across the Commonwealth. As I said, on the same day, a 20-year-old was shot and killed in South Philadelphia. We need to do something to stop gun violence all across Pennsylvania. Too many Pennsylvanians have died from gun violence. Too many have lost loved ones to gun violence. Too many live every day in fear of being shot on the sidewalk, in their neighborhood, in a grocery store, at school, or at a concert. We need to protect all of our lives, everywhere in Pennsylvania. Last week, I stood in the rotunda and I called for action. We need to fix our weak gun laws in Pennsylvania and pass reforms focused on increasing safety and reducing danger to our citizens. But with each day that passes, alarming numbers of Pennsylvanians are losing their lives to gun violence, because every day we delay in doing this, it's another day where we lose the right to live our lives free of fear that is surrounding our lack of action. So the executive order I'm signing is not an impulsive decision made in the wake of the recent mass shootings. Rather, it's the result of months of work by my administration, working with partners to find real, tangible solutions that focus on reducing gun violence, on reducing the number of people killed and terrorized by guns in our Commonwealth. The Second Amendment does not supersede the inalienable right we all have to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Every human being, every Pennsylvanian is endowed with these rights, and it's my duty, and it's all of our duty, to protect them for every Pennsylvanian. That's what this executive order is all about. I'm starting by announcing Charles Ramsey, and I ask you today whether you like to be called Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, and he said Charles. So, Charles Ramsey, who's the current chair of the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, but as you know, he was also the former police commissioner in Philadelphia. He's going to be my new special advisor charged with coordinating and leading our gun reform effort. This executive order also establishes the Office of Gun Violence Prevention within the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency and the Division of Violence Prevention within the Department of Health. These 2 new offices will work together to tackle gun violence from both the gun safety and a public health perspective. Together, they will target 3 key areas of gun violence. First, community gun violence. Second, mass shootings. Third, domestic gun violence and suicides. Let me start with the first one. Community gun violence is going to be addressed through increased training for state and municipal police and data sharing, which will help us identify trends and create tailored solutions to each community's needs. We will work on prevention tactics like increasing school emotional, social, and behavioral supports and bolstering evidence-based juvenile justice programs. And we'll support and expand municipal gun buyback programs through the Pennsylvania State Police to reduce the number of unwanted guns in our communities. Second, we will deal with mass shootings by holding more active shooter training for state and municipal police and state agencies. We will also use prevention tactics by working with the Pennsylvania State Police again to put a greater focus on domestic terrorism and a see something, send something campaign encouraging people to report suspicions or of potential mass shootings by text message. I'm also enrolling Pennsylvania in the States for Gun Safety Coalition, which is a multi-state partnership that shares information and conducts research to combat gun violence. Finally, we will tackle gun domestic violence and suicides. I'm directing the Suicide Prevention Task Force to make immediate recommendations on steps to reduce suicides by gun. Their work will be supplemented by data collected by a new suicide death review team within our Department of Health. The ultimate outcome of this is to determine what we can do as a Commonwealth to decrease deaths by suicide. Our agencies will build on mental health stigma campaigns to encourage Pennsylvanians to seek treatment. Most people with mental illness are not violent, but for those individuals who are struggling with mental illness and show an increased risk of violence, early identification, early intervention, and evidence-based mental health treatments are key. We will also build up the Student Assistance Program, a critical program that allows educators who work with students every day to make mental health referrals. The Office of Gun Violence Prevention will also be charged with coordinating a system of focused police deterrence in neighborhoods and cities where violence is most extreme. This executive order also establishes the Special Counsel on Gun Violence within the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. This council will meet within 60 days of the signing of this executive order and will make recommendations to the special advisor and the PCCD on ways to reduce incidents of gun violence in Pennsylvania. It will be comprised of agency secretaries, designees from each of the PCCD's existing subcommittees, and members of the General Assembly. We will rely on them to include gun owners, victims of gun-related violence, criminal justice experts, and healthcare practitioners in the discussion around practical recommendations to enhance this executive order. To better understand the scope of gun violence, including contributing factors, we'll be establishing a violence data dashboard similar to the opioid data dashboard. We'll partner with state universities to research the cause and consequences of gun violence and identify trends to help us better predict and prevent gun violence from happening anywhere in Pennsylvania. And I will be directing every state department to engage in an effort to combat the systemic causes of violence, including poverty, hopelessness, a lack of economic opportunities, mental and behavioral health supports. All of the actions I'm taking today strike a balance between freedom and safety. Finally, I cannot work alone in this endeavor, and I'm asking for the support of the General Assembly to make the legislative changes necessary to protect the lives of all Pennsylvanians. First, I will seek legislation to mandate the reporting of lost or stolen guns so that we can cut down on the number of illegal gun sales and keep guns out of the hands of known criminals like the Philadelphia shooter. Second, I'm asking for the General Assembly to pursue safe storage legislation so people who are in danger of harming themselves or others cannot gain access in an easy way to guns. Third, I will continue to push for the swift passage of the Extreme Risk Protection Order Act, that's also known as the Red Flag Law. And last, I will continue to push for state-level universal background checks on all gun purchases and other common-sense gun violence reduction legislation. It's my honor and my duty to guide our Commonwealth. I'm proud to be governor. By making and finding the right middle ground here, I think we can create the best Pennsylvania. We want a good Pennsylvania for everybody, one that recognizes the rights embedded in the Second Amendment, but also one that recognizes all of our rights to live free of fear. The conversation of where this middle ground, where this important middle ground lies is important. It's long, long overdue, and I look forward to continuing this conversation with the legislature, with the people of Pennsylvania, as we move into the start of the fall session. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce Commissioner Chairman Charles Ramsey, who unfortunately is going to have to leave right after he speaks, but I really appreciate your doing what you're doing. Thank you for stepping up.
Thank you very much, Governor. It's really an honor to serve on such a vital, important issue as dealing with gun violence. And also, I want to thank you for coming up with this strategy, which I believe is unprecedented at the state level, to address this issue, not just as a law enforcement or criminal justice issue, but as a public health issue as well. And I promise we will meet all the deadlines and give you something that is actionable, that can really improve the quality of safety and security throughout the Commonwealth. You know, this whole issue of mass shootings is normally what gets national attention, whether it's El Paso or Dayton or Pittsburgh. It's incidents like that where the national media comes out, and for a day or two, they'll spend time actually talking about gun violence in America. But the reality is mass shootings take place every day on the streets of our city, just across the entire country. One person, two people here, three over there. All life has value. You don't have to lose it in large quantities before we start to pay attention to something that is as pressing an issue as gun violence in our communities. Suicide. More people die by suicide than any other means. What about children? I can't tell you how many scenes I've gone to. I've been an active member of law enforcement 47 years, where a young child finds a gun in a home and accidentally pulls the trigger and shoots a sibling or shoots themselves. Tragic. Something has to be done to reduce gun violence, whether it's by criminals, whether it's accidental, whether it's suicide, whatever it is. We need to do everything we can to protect our people here. And Governor, I just want to thank you for taking this step to do it at the state level, because if we wait around for the federal government to do it, it's not going to happen anytime soon. And so doing it here, Pennsylvania, we can be the model for the rest of the country, and we will be the model for the rest of the country. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity. We will not let you down. And thank all of you gathered here today for all the work that you've done in the past and all that you're about to do in the future. So thank you.